It doesn't matter if it was a long-term relationship or a short-lived love affair, getting over a breakup is hard to do. Joining us with tips on how to mend a broken heart is clinical psychologist Dr. Elaine Ducharme. Dr. Ducharme, it is a loss when you do break up with someone.
Absolutely. When you've been with someone, especially for a long time, there's an attachment that developed. And so when you break up, it really is a grief process. And people go through the same stages they do when they're grieving the death of a loved one. So they often start out in denial. You know, this just didn't happen. It's not going to happen. I just don't believe it. And then they move on to anger, and they get very angry about it. Then they can clearly move into bargaining. You know, I promise you, I know you didn't like this about me, but I'll change and it'll all be okay. And then they move on to depression and feel very sad, a normal thing when you're breaking, when you've had a breakup. And the last one is acceptance. And if you don't go through those stages, really you can get stuck somewhere along the line. So it's better to let yourself go through them, and then you're able to move on in a much better way.
You're used to your life a certain way, and you're so involved with that person that now when they're gone, you do have to let yourself be emotional.
You do. You have to let yourself have those feelings. Don't deny them, and have a good cry. Let yourself sit down with a cup of tea and sob over a really sad movie. It can be very much, it helps you let go.
It's therapeutic in a way.
It's very much therapeutic.
Yes,
it really is.
That's your first tip, is to really just accept those feelings. Your second tip is to stay connected with your friends.
Right, because if you're feeling that sad and you're always crying, you tend to isolate. And we really want you to stay connected to your friends. Our girlfriends can make us laugh. Our friends in general know things about our past. They can introduce us to things and help us remember that there's life beyond that relationship.
Yes.
So really important to keep those connections.
And you want people to focus on things they enjoy. That's something that's crucial, because it really does take their mind to a place that is happy.
Exactly. So, you might enjoy work, you might enjoy painting, or you might want to take up something that you've never done before, like learn a new language, but focus on the positives, because if your relationship was in any way healthy, hopefully you've kept up some of your interests. And if you haven't, find something new, but it helps you move forward.
Absolutely, and I have a tip that I can add to that, is watch Mass Appeal, because we're always offering new ideas and new things and learning more things, so it's a great way to
Absolutely, I'm going to have to add that.
Yes, exactly, to help people find something new. And that's the next tip, actually, is to set 1 or 2 goals and work towards them.
Exactly, because if you get stuck in the past, you're not going anywhere. But the goals can be something as simple as, I'm going to clean up my kitchen. And that may seem overwhelming, but if you start with 1 drawer, you've actually, you've gained control over something. And it allows you to have a sense of mastery, because one of the feelings about, breakup is, I've messed up, I've been a failure. And so if you do something and you feel like you're mastering it, my house feels better, it really does help you move forward.
It's success, and that's what you need in your life. And also, the reaching out and helping others, that can be very, very beneficial to you.
It really can. It's amazing when, so many times I make this recommendation, whether it's during holidays and people are stressed or after a relationship, if you can reach out and help another person, it's amazing how good it feels. It takes you out of yourself. It gets us out of that self-centered focus, I feel miserable, to, wow, I'm helping somebody and they smiled at me. And you never know who you're going to meet when you're out there volunteering and doing other things and helping others. So it's just a great way to move forward.
Absolutely. And we all know the quote, everything happens for a reason. So your next tip is, think about what you learned from this relationship. Maybe, you wish that it never happened, but you must have taken something from it.
Exactly. You learn about yourself. Was I a very needy person? Did I choose a person who was very aggressive? Were there red flags? So if you can really look at the relationship and step back a little bit, you may be able to move forward without making the same mistake. Because, for example, in marriages, 50% of first marriages fail, about 75% of second, and we're up into the 90s by the third. So if you haven't figured out what you did and looked at that relationship, you're probably going to pick the same kind of person and end up with the same mess.
Right. So learn from it, and maybe 50 years later you'll look back and be grateful that experience happened.
And really, we really can move on and learn from every single thing that happens in our life.
And if all else fails, know that there is professional help that can really make a difference in your life.
Absolutely. If you discover that you're sad, you're crying, you can't get out of bed, and this is going on for 2 weeks or more, it really would be appropriate to seek professional help and talk to a psychologist or someone in the mental health field who is trained to help you figure out what's going on. Is this really a clinical depression? And give you the tools to help yourself move out of it and move forward and get back into living your own life.
And Dr. Ducharme, I think a lot of people think, well, I have friends to talk to. Why do I need to talk to a clinical psychologist when I have friends that I can confide in? But there is a difference when you talk to a psychologist than just your friends.
Absolutely. I mean, your friends, first of all, after a while, your friends can get really tired of it. If that's the only thing you're talking about and sort of a downer all the time. Secondly, they aren't necessarily trained. They may give good advice, and if it's just an initial breakup, they may be great. They've had some experience. But if you're really stuck and starting to get depressed, you really need professional help.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and I'm sure a lot of people can take a lot away from your tips
You're
today.
welcome.
Thank
A pleasure
you.
being here.
And you can get all of these tips again on our website, mymassappeal.com, later today.